if we were really excited or had a few too many beers, we would perform the songs like crazy, crazy fast and actually be really difficult to play. We'd
Right.
start off too quick and then we'd be like, oh God, what are we doing?
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now.
Andy, thank you so much for your time today, and I really need to thank you because they are driving you through a crazy program where you cannot, take a break in between interviews. Maybe I'll just start right there. We're here all to celebrate hate and, the crazy impact it has had. But when you joined this band all these years ago, do you ever think that, okay, in over 10 years from now, I'm gonna have to do 20 hours of interview every day?
I definitely did not see this part of it. No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But here we are,
Here we are.
Surprise
Here
every
we
day.
are. Exactly. I know it could be a tedious task, but at the end of the day, the fact that so many people want to talk to you guys must feel good also in some way. Like I said, we want to celebrate, obviously, the live album and the milestone that it is. Now, for many bands, live albums are being released usually as a filler in between two albums, often to complete a contract and stuff like that. As far as live albums go with you guys, however, this couldn't be further from the truth. Like, this is quite an emotional release for many people in the band, I would assume. How are you living up to this release, and definitely compared to, the traditional albums?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like a get out of jail sort of situation for us. Although we technically have done that before. We had it never got released though. No, it was just important to us. It wasn't necessarily the plan to make a live record. What I wanted to do was to document the live experience of Hate, change of scenery from when the album first came out. We're playing 200 to 300 capacity clubs, and to go up to 2,500 capacity venues and put on the production and everything for the fans was pretty crazy. So I knew I wanted to film it, and then I was like, oh well, if we're gonna film it, I'm gonna have to capture audio. And if we're gonna get audio, then I might as well get Will Putney to mix it. And then I was like, well, hang on, I could just put this online or print vinyl or something with it. So it just kept happening, and I'm just really stoked that the fans are stoked. It really, when the shows did as well as they did, that was one thing. It kind of showed me the fans were like, they believed in the album that we put out over 10 years ago as much as we did at the time, and they still do. And also, it validated that the record was good, that it was enough to sell 2,500 tickets. But it wasn't until they started responding to the fact that it was out like on vinyl and on Spotify that I was like, oh wow, they really care about this. Like they're like, I have to have it. I have to listen to it. Like, it's I don't know, strange to me because I've never been one that's kind of gone and preferred to put on live records as opposed to the studio version.
Songs can be quite different in the live experience than on record. They not just the power and the energy, but in many cases, especially when bands start getting older and older, songs change, whether it's just maybe just the rhythm or the speed and all that kind of stuff. When you're going through this process, everything gets captured, and okay, we put it out as a release, and okay, it actually gets the proper treatment. Are there let's call them surprises that you kind of notice, like, oh, I never realized that if I compare it now back to back with the original record, how some of these songs have changed over the years?
No, I didn't really think too much about that. I mean, we performed to a click track, so tempo and everything remains pretty consistent. Early on, I mean, I guess the better, like apples to apples comparison is the live show then to the live show now. I mean, we didn't have the technology or the
Right.
equipment to have a click track, and sometimes back then, if we were really excited or had a few too many beers, we would perform the songs like crazy fast, and actually be really difficult to play. We'd
Right.
start off too quick, and then we'd be like, "Oh God, what are we doing? This is impossible." No, I don't know. I guess like the great thing about capturing the live performance is it is like a moment in time, and maybe it resonated with people in that respect because they have seen us live a few times, so maybe like getting the opportunity to capture that for them reminds them of being at the show as opposed to just putting on the CD or listening on Spotify.
When people think, well, definitely people that have seen you guys live over the years, when people think Thy Art live, they think about crazy mosh pits and everything that comes with that. I was actually talking to another guitar player from another band yesterday who told me, you know, I used to love my own mosh pits as well and go in there and jump, but now I have to consider myself kind of like a football player where, you know, you got Cristiano Ronaldo that has to like get his legs, you know, insured in case something happens. And he's like, I just have to stay away from mosh pits even though I want to, because if I fuck up my wrist, then, well, that's that. How are you like that? Like when you're playing and you see all these crazy things happening in front of you, you're like, oh man, I just want to jump in, or do you now also stay away from that?
No, I never really think about jumping in. I got to play the songs, you know. It'd be too crazy to do that. Also, I don't. Yeah, good question. I don't know if our insurance would really allow that. That being said, we don't really care about other things when we're off tour. Like, we go to the beach. Kevin goes to the gym a lot. We play a little bit of sports here and there. So, like, there is the possibility to become injured. But we definitely aren't doing it in a mosh pit. No.
Yeah. Okay.
A little too old now.
Well, I mean, too old. It is interesting when you start celebrating these milestones as a band. Because if you start celebrating one, then it's easy to do the next one. Before you know it, you've got like the 30th anniversary tour. Not that Thy Art Is Murder would be considered dad rock at this point just yet, but you mentioned it was kind of cool. I said like, oh, we should look back to back, you know, or put side by side the shows that we did when the album first came out versus those shows now. How have you seen as an artist looking at all this, you know, mayhem and havoc in the crowd? How have you seen your audience change? Like the people that were with you in the beginning, they still seem to be there. They might now have their own kids that want to come to the show as well. Like, what's that like?
It is crazy. I mean, I've got my own kids, and CJ's got his own kids now, so it's like it's a pretty long time. Like, there's a great possibility. We do see a lot of kids coming with their parents to shows now. Yeah. Just the diversity, the increase in diversity. I think, you know, back then the band was a lot smaller. Also, heavy music maybe was a little more stigmatized. I'm not too sure, but I mean, we see a lot more age groups. We've got older people, whether or not that's old metal fans that have found out about the band, or they're existing fans who have gotten older. A lot of younger people, a lot more women at shows, noticeably the last few years as well. So it just goes to show that metal's a pretty inclusive genre and full of diverse fans.
Although you weren't there from day one, you've been with the band for a long time, and when some of those roller coaster moments were happening, I mean, Sean obviously was there side by side with you, but people start to look more and more to you, it seems, to kind of be that driving factor as well. You're kind of like for the majority of the band's legacy now, you've been, you know, that constant factor, if you will. Have you felt over the years that pressure growing on your shoulders? Is that something that you don't think about at all, or is that something that, you know, the legacy and the future of the band, is that something that is extremely important to you?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. It's the reason why I get up every day, is to do this and make it the best that I can. I think I'm the only one that hasn't missed a show in the last 10 years as well. But no, not too much pressure. I think it's how you choose to see it. You could see it as
Yeah.
pressure, or you could see it as opportunity.
Right.
You know, I'm the manager of the band and the record label for the band, and all these different things now. Like, I love doing it. I love the band. I love my friends, and I work super hard, obviously, to secure uh, a career for myself, but also because my best friends are in the band. So, you know, wanting to work hard is pretty easy. It's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
it's I'm going to work for someone else and I go, why am I doing this?
Do you still consider yourself like, hey, I'm a musician that takes these things on, or are you like, no, I'm an owner of a brand, and and this is what I love to do.
I think sadly it's the inverse. Yeah. Guitar playing has taken a backseat for me almost for nearly 10 years now.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, I'm lucky that I'm able to participate creatively and in the touring still. I was just lucky to have a brain that was capable of taking a little bit too much on. Uh, you know, I certainly didn't set out to do this in the beginning. You know, 15, 16 years ago when I started playing guitar in bands, I just wanted to play guitar and, you know, live the rock star dream. But it became apparent to me early on that, you know, no one will get the job done as well as you will. And if you have the tools and the mindset to do it, then maybe you should just do it to make sure everything's done correctly.
Yeah. When the creative process happened for the new album, did this, Decade of Hate tour and experience, and being so focused on early material, did that influence? Did you see an influence in what's coming ahead, or are those two things very separate?
Very separate, but I do think it was an opportunity to analyze the contrast because we finished the majority of making the new album about 6 weeks before the Decade of Hate touring began in Australia.
Okay.
So it was going straight from the newest thing back to the oldest stuff that we play very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we'd come out of an album recording process because some of the guitar playing on Hate is a little bit tricky for us. So our hands are in good shape. You know, if we had just been taking the time off, it would have been a bit of a shock to the system, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a bit of a mindfuck having to go from the modern to the old.
Oh, 100%. You know what? One of the things that I said was great about the new record is we had so much time off. So we were free of a lot of old habits in terms of guitar playing and riffs and scales, patterns, chord shapes, and everything. But then going to the old stuff where it's a totally different style again and different scales, it was like, oh shit, like, how do we do this? And it's material is quite physically demanding, so
Yeah.
hopefully it's got us in pretty good guitar playing shape for the next year or so, got us caught up.
You will likely at the next tours won't play the whole Hate album anymore. There's obviously a couple of those songs that are classics for the fans. Now that you've done such a focus on that record, when you're planning your next tour and going to be promoting new album, are you also like taking a pause of that era now, or should fans still expect to hear one or two of those classics?
We've definitely purged it from our system, I like to think. That being said, you know, I'm sure that we'll probably reincorporate some of the songs into the live set. For the next 12 to 18 months, I'm sure the focus will be on the new record, but with a new record comes like 10 new songs, which creates more opportunity, but also more complexity in designing set lists moving
For
forward.
sure,
You know?
yeah.
It's this will be the 5th record that we've done with Putney, so that's 50 songs. Only like 12 to 15 songs go in a set list, so it's like getting pretty difficult.
Yeah.
You know, the max pick from any album would be 3 if you're going to represent them equally. So, and with the new record, it's like we're probably going to play a bunch of that, so it makes the choice even more difficult. How to design the set list for the most impact, how to make sure that the fans are happiest with, and also how to like pull out some of the deeper cuts, you know,
Right.
some fan favorites that maybe we've never played before or they haven't been played in a few years. It is a challenge, you know, to try and make sure that everyone's going to be happy and make sure that we're going to feel comfortable performing the material.
We'll see what that set list becomes when you guys hit the road again, and we'll keep our eyes open and fingers crossed for many announcements, especially also here in North America. Andy, I want to just say thank you for taking the time. I really do appreciate it. I know these are hectic, and very long days, so thank you so much for taking the time.
No worries.
It's great to see the response to the live album, and I know so many people are waiting for the new material. So look forward to checking in with you and the band when the right time is there.
Well, thank you very much for having me today.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.